one out of the herd, and you whip him in the face. If it turns him and he goes the other way, that's probably it for him. You do whatever you need to do with him. But if he stays with his fellows and keeps going, then he's still got the control over his life. And so this happens to us anytime we're pursuing something good. Let's give up those. We get somehow or another we get whipped in the face, but always keeping going toward what we know. That's our responsibility. And so, talking about challenges, this picture was taken during our very first class where we started visiting places. This was in 2002. And I thought it's become kind of for me a very symbolic picture because we're writing on stone, fascinating. And behind this metal cage is some pictographs, petroglyphs, or what have you. It's a war scene, a really big panel war scene, and this picture to me says a lot about the obstacles that are faced, because that cage was put up, of course, to stop tourists and such, or from vandalizing the site. A lot of the panels there on the rock have been vandalized. People graffiti and carve their own stuff into the rock and this and that. And so this one they really wanted to save, so they put this cage around it. But ironically, this cage then creates a separation between our students and our people and the intellectual inheritance, which is a relationship to this place. So by putting up that cage, it reframes the relationship of what it is to be at this place, and what you're doing there. That panel becomes an object rather than something to relate to. We can't go and feed the kidney at some of these places we go because there's a cage. And part of what this challenge is about what the concept of culture has come to mean, and part of it is about time. And one of the things as we began visiting places, and visiting them in the sense of Oxisowat, going and visiting and approaching those places as elders, I realized that there's such a difference in the paradigms of approaching these places. We approach them as living elders at the Pisco. These places have a living presence. And in the Western tradition, these places are also approached as as elders, but rather than living elders, they're somewhere deep, subconsciously conceived of as deceased elders, and so they're treated with the very same way that the dead are treated in Western culture. If you're a respected member of the dead, all of the efforts are on, and I don't know why, but all of the efforts are on conserving the body, making sure that as little decomposition of the body happens. So you got caskets inside of tombs, and preserved, and this and that. And at these sites, this is what this cage is. It's casket in a sense. And on top of that, if you want to learn from a deceased elder in the Western tradition, what do? You do the CSI thing, you do the autopsy. You open them up and you say, what is the stomach contents? What does the evidence tell us? And this is not the same is what we try to do when we approach these places, which is maintain that relationship to them as living beings. And so these are some of this is the slide that we used to kind of open up, some of the difficulties that we have. And those difficulties have everything to do with what this conference is about, which is what is the relationship between people pursuing knowledge from these two different perspectives. One of the difficulties we run into all the time in this is what culture has come to mean. And this is in our education programs and everything. It's certainly going to, be a part of what will have to be dealt with here at the University of Montana with Native studies and such. A lot of times it's in our programs back home and in other places, you have this idea of you have a program for education and you need the cultural component, right? We need an Aboriginal cultural component or a Blackfoot cultural component. And what's not respected is that this is what we're looking for is recognition and respect that it's a complete paradigm, a complete way of relating to the world. It can't be essentialized into just a component. When you call it the cultural component, you're in many ways saying, well, this is not the important stuff. Here's the education stuff, and this is the real learning. But we need a cultural component to kind of frame it as Aboriginal and what have you. And that culture idea plays out in lots of ways in the community and outside. This is a slide of when that idea of culture is kind of first introduced into Blackfoot communities. This is Not Those Who Need Be Brings Down the Sun, talking with Walter McClintock, who was he wasn't an anthropologist, but he was the first kind of ethnographer. And the elders at the time, and ever since, when a researcher comes in from outside and wants to know about what have you, the elders think, okay, how can we use this to our benefit? And so there's a lot of things that are recorded. I know I've seen on the agenda in some sessions of this conference, there's going to be talk about going to those archival papers or those old resources and stuff. The elders have left a lot of things there that they knew was endangered for people to go back and look at in future generations. That was the purpose, the stated purpose in many cases of why they worked with researchers, was for the benefit of future generations to be able to go back and learn things that maybe were in danger of being lost at the time they were talking. And so Brings Down the Sun was one that participated in this, as well as many others, but working with researchers. And when the researchers first came in with this concept of culture, when ethnographers first came in, culture didn't mean the same thing it does today. Anthropology started applying this idea of culture as a kind of a way to combat racism. At the turn of the century, there was this idea of there was primitive people, and there was this development, this evolution up to, the Western. And so anthropologists were trying to fight this by saying that, no, this is not but the differences we see between people is not about evolution. These differences are culture, and every culture is equally complex in all of this. And so they were out trying to, they were worried too that, everything's going to go away, and so we need to salvage culture. And they were running out to the communities, trying to collect as much information as they could. But in many ways to kind of pursue that fight against the racism of the time.
Just on that, Ryan, one of the things that's very striking is that